Hi, my name is Ben. I teach people Wordly mapping, which is all about strategy. And one of the principles in Wordly mapping we apply is FIRE, which stands for fast, inexpensive, restrained, and elegant. FIRE comes from Dan Ward, who wrote a book of the same name. And the idea is we can actually do a lot better than we're doing today if we work within tighter constraints. It's a great book with a lot of great examples. I recommend reading it. But today I want to show you how I apply it, especially when I'm working on tight deadline projects, which is almost always the case when I'm doing consulting with organizations, designing workshops, building deliverables, things like that. So when we're on a deadline and we give ourselves maybe an hour or a week to do something, what I like to do is apply FIRE with something called the weakest parts first. I'm sure I'm not the first to come up with this, but the basic idea is you make a list of all the things in the project that you're working on that are weak, and then you order them from weakest to least weak. So here I've got an example of an email that I was just putting together tonight. I said, I want to get this done in an hour, and I know I'm going to get lost fiddling on all sorts of various different rabbit holes, but instead of doing that, I'm going to stay focused by putting this 1 hour time box on it. And then I asked myself, well, what's weak about this situation so far? It's like, well, I haven't defined my target audience. I haven't written a bold promise for the event that I want to announce in the email. I haven't outlined the event. I don't even know if there is an event yet. I haven't figured out the sales pitch that I'm going to include in the event for the workshops and things that we offer around Wordly mapping and strategy in general. And I don't have a registration page for people to sign up. And there's some specific things I want to work on with registration and all this kind of stuff. It's like I haven't even figured it out, right? So now that I have this list of the weakest parts, what I'm going to do is make sure that they're in the order from weakest to least weak. And then I'm going to start running work sprints on the weakest part. And then when the work sprint is over, I'll put it off to the side, and then I'll decide whether to do another sprint on that same thing or whether I've successfully demoted it to be less weak than one of the other items on the list. When I've demoted it, then I pick the next thing and I will repeat the process. So the way this works in practice is like, okay, the target audience is my weakest thing. So that's going to be my first work item. And so this is like a little Kanban. You can imagine these are sticky notes. The left column is to do, the middle column is doing, the right column is done. So I would move target audience over to doing. I would set a 5-minute timer. When the 5-minute timer goes off, after I've done my work on target audience goes to done, and I choose my next target. And if I want to do target audience again, I can do that. I just run it through again. I decided that I didn't make enough progress on it, and it's still the weakest thing, and so I'm going to run target audience again. 5-minute timer, boom, boom, boom. Timer's done. Okay, now that it's done, I'm going to move it over here, and I go, okay, well, now that I've worked on target audience a little bit, it's actually less weak. It's actually the least weak thing. And so now I've promoted the bold promise of the event to be the most weak thing. And so now I put that as my next to-do item, and I repeat the process once again. Throw this into the to-do or the doing column, 5-minute timer. When the 5-minute timer is done, I move it to done, and then I make a decision about what to work on next. Have I demoted bold promise of the event to be weaker than, say, the event outline? So that's how I go through it real quick. And at the end of the hour, or the end of whatever time span you have, whether it's an hour, a week, or a month, or what have you, when you look at what you've done, you realize that you've used your time really well. You've focused on the weakest parts first, which means now all you have to do is kind of finish things up, which there's always a lot of work to finish things up and wrap it up and tie it up in a nice bow. Usually you'll find things that you've missed, but hey, at least you haven't put off the things that are weakest or most scary or most uncertain to the last minute. Now you're just doing cleanup work. So that's how I apply the FIRE principle in my work, by taking on the weakest part first and then running sprints fast, right? Because I'm only spending 5 minutes at a time, or you might change the time box to only going to spend a day on this and a day on that, and so on. So it's fast and it's inexpensive. It's restrained because I'm saying that I'm going to ship whatever I have at the end. And I think it's elegant because what I end up designing is not something that's the result of me meandering off into things that I'm interested in or things that I'm insecure about. No, it's what's weakest. And I have to be constantly exercising judgment. In fact, that's the thing that really makes me feel good about this process, is that I'm constantly deciding, where are we now? What's weakest now? Where are we really in terms of shipping and getting this out the door? So it helps keep me really focused, and it's great for making sure that I don't get lost, making things bigger and bigger and more complicated and so on. So fast, inexpensive, restrained, and elegant. I apply that through the weakest parts first approach, and you can try this too. Let me know how it goes. Leave questions in the comments. Always happy to help you with your needs for worthy mapping or strategic thinking. You can always contact me at ben@higherthought.com. I appreciate you for being here, and I will see you again soon.